Sunday, boys and girls, and welcome to St. Mark's Methodist Church and Children's Moments with Miss Robin. I hope you guys are having a fantastic week. Today I brought an object lesson for you that is going to help me illustrate the story of Moses, which we can find in Exodus, the 25th chapter. Now, today's story is about a miracle that Moses was able to perform. We heard the whole entire story of Moses last year at Vacation Bible School. And if you guys can go back into your mind to all the way last summer, we had an actor come in to help us tell about Moses and the problem that he was having. As you may remember, the Jewish people were being held as slaves by the Egyptian Pharaoh. And our actor, who was Seth, was the Egyptian Pharaoh. And he hid behind our sliding doors, and we wanted to set the Jewish people free. So all of us outside the stage would sit and holler at the Pharaoh, "Set our people free. Let our people go." And the Pharaoh would open up the door and he'd say, "No." And then he'd slam them shut, and we all laughed and had such a great time. Well, we also heard the story of all the plagues that Moses and God did to the Egyptians, trying to get the stubborn Pharaoh to let the Jewish slaves go. And nothing seemed to work until the very last plague, which was the Passover of the angel of death. And the angel of death took away all the oldest children, all the oldest sons, unless there was lamb's blood on the door. Well, our Pharaoh, who was very stubborn, finally gave up and let the Jewish slaves go. But at the last minute, he changed his mind. And the Jewish slaves arrived at the Red Sea. This red water represents the water of the Red Sea, and this saucer is the seabed. So I'm going to pour the red water onto the seabed. And as you may remember in the story, when Moses and all of the Jewish people arrived at the Red Sea, right behind them were coming the Egyptian soldiers to capture them and take them back into slavery. And they were panicked. Moses prayed to God, and God once again said, "Just touch your staff to the Red Sea." And that's what Moses did. He took his staff, and this eyedropper represents his staff, and he touched the Red Sea, and look what happened. The Red Sea parted, and all of the slaves were able to walk across to freedom. And you know what happened next is when the Egyptian soldiers got to the sea, it closed back up, and all of the soldiers were drowned. And at last, the Jewish slaves were free. Isn't that fun? It's a little bit of science. I filled this eyedropper with alcohol prior to starting our story and hid the alcohol, so hopefully you didn't see it. And the alcohol is what made the Red Sea, or the water in our saucer, part. But now, guys, I'm really sure that Moses' staff was not full of alcohol. I don't know if there's enough alcohol in the whole world to part the whole Red Sea. What do you think? Yeah, that's crazy. It was just a little bit of science on my saucer. But, boys and girls, the Red Sea was parted by the miracle of God, by God's energy and God's power as an answer to an impossible, or what seemed like an impossible prayer for the Jewish slaves when they arrived and were trapped by the Red Sea and had the Egyptian soldiers right after them, ready to capture them back again. A miracle of God happened. An impossible prayer was granted, and the Jewish slaves were set free. Now, boys and girls, this wonderful, wonderful story of God's miracles is a story that we should all take to heart. A lot of times in our lives, people try to explain the miracles that happen to us as just science, because science is an important part of our life. Scientists study things, they find cures and invent things that make our lives better. But the miracle of science is, in fact, a miracle of God. And then there are so many miracles of God that nobody can really explain. So look for those miracles in your life. The birth of children, the fact that the sun comes up, your miraculous body, and thank God. Dear boys and girls, let's close our eyes and say a little prayer. Dear God, thank you so much for the miracle that I finally got through the telling of this story. Dear God, help each and every one of us recognize all the blessings and all the miracles in our life, and know that with God, nothing is impossible. Have a wonderful week, boys and girls, and I'll see you next Sunday, where we'll have another scientific lesson on 3 types of prayer.